I spent last week at the IFP annual meeting in New Orleans, and I talked to dozens of people, quality directors, growers, lab directors, a few regulators who were careful about what they said, and more than a few people selling software. Besides Cyclospora, the hallway conversation this year was about detection, whole genome sequencing, environmental monitoring programs that find the resident strain before it finds a consumer, machine learning run against sanitation records, sensors, dashboards, predictive models. Nearly all of it is real, and most of it works. Then somebody would start describing an actual recall, and the story would collapse back into phone calls, spreadsheets, and a distributor who does not answer email on a weekend. That gap is the thing I want to write about, because I have spent 33 years litigating inside it. The food industry has gotten genuinely good at the front end. Sequencing turned outbreaks from a guess into a match. A company with a serious environmental monitoring program today knows things about its own plant that nobody could have known in 1993. But the back end, the part where contaminated product physically comes off a shelf, out of a walk-in, out of somebody's refrigerator, has barely changed since I started. In the Jack-in-the-Box outbreak, Washington asked for a recall, and by the time hundreds of thousands of patties were pulled, a large share of them had already been eaten. Lauren Rudolph was dead in San Diego before anyone in Olympia knew there was an outbreak at all. The science that would have identified that strain in 2 days did not exist. The recall that took weeks looked, mechanically, a lot like the recalls I watch today. Meanwhile, the last mile got harder. In 1993, food moved from a store to a consumer who stood in the store. Today, a meal kit reaches a curb by way of an independent contractor who is logged into 3 apps at once. A ghost kitchen ships under 4 brand names out of one hood. A subscription box arrives from a fulfillment center that never touches a retail shelf. And drone delivery has stopped being a press release. Every one of those handoffs is a place where a lot code goes to die. When the recall notice finally issues, there is often no one on the other end of it who can tell you where the product went. The numbers say the same thing from a different direction. A Sedgwick analysis found U.S. food recalls hit 57.4 million units in the first quarter of 2026, roughly double the 28.76 million units of the previous quarter. While the number of recall events actually fell, from 877 to 785. Fewer recalls, much bigger recalls. That is consolidation showing up in the data. One contaminated ingredient now reaches further than it used to, and pulling it back is a bigger job than it used to be. It is also increasingly a job somebody has to do twice. Perk's Food for Thought count found at least 31 recalls in 2025 that were triggered by an ingredient already under recall. The cascade effect. Cucumbers moving through 10 different companies. Pre-cooked pasta that started with a June announcement and was still generating new retail recalls in October, by which point the affected banners included Kroger, Walmart, Trader Joe's, Albertsons, Giant Eagle, Sprouts, and a half dozen more. Nearly 100 illnesses between those two, with about half of the victims hospitalized. Nobody in that chain could answer the only question that mattered: where it went, fast enough to keep it from going somewhere else. There was a federal answer to this. FSMA Section 204, the Food Traceability Rule, finalized in November 2022, requiring lot codes and key data elements captured at each critical tracking event and produced to FDA within 24 hours of a request. Compliance was set for January 20, 2026. In March 2025, FDA announced a 30-month delay, published that August, and in November 2025 Congress wrote the delay into a Continuing Appropriations Act directing the agency not to enforce the rule before July 20, 2028. The one federal requirement that would have forced lot-level digital records across the produce supply chain is now parked until the middle of 2028. I am watching the consequences of that in real time in the Cyclospora outbreak, where the states have now counted more than 22,000 illnesses and the federal case count is still under 19,000. But here is the part worth paying attention to. Walmart did not wait. Its supplier traceability requirement, advanced ship notices carrying the key data elements, GS1 case and pallet labels, took effect August 1, 2025, and suppliers who do not comply get charged back. Adding to it,